Welcome to another episode of The Complete Story. My name is Miles Jensen. I'll be your host today, and I've got a handful of amazing guests with us today. We're going to be talking about the Affordable Connectivity Program today. I'm first going to, on my immediate right, we've got Misty Pina, the Director of Call Center Operations for Complete Recovery, and Merlin, Jensen, the President and Co-Founder of Complete Recovery, and one of our partners, Stephan from South Africa, Senior Vice President of Sales from Nutun. Welcome, guys.
Welcome. Good afternoon.
Yeah. As I mentioned, today our topic is going to be ACP, or the Affordable Connectivity Program. We're going to get into that a little bit, and as you would expect, we bring experts in the space. And so we're going to start off. Misty, tell us what ACP is.
So ACP is a government program that they started during COVID that helps lower income households stay connected by providing them an internet solution by giving them a credit on their monthly bill.
Yeah, and I'm assuming this started during COVID, right, to help people out.
Yeah, early on in COVID.
How many people did it affect?
23 million today.
Wow,
So
23 million.
Yeah.
And so it's been going on. It's a program that's out there. Why are we even talking about it today?
Well, because recently they announced that, because it was a program that was funded by a lump sum of money, and they're running out of that funding. And so the program is ending in April and beginning of May.
Okay. And who is this affecting the most?
So,
obviously the individuals, but...
Yeah, the telecommunication companies that provide broadband right now. So it will impact a lot of their customers, the 23 million that today are on this program.
Okay.
They're at risk at losing their internet program, internet funding.
Okay, great. What are some of the best practices of how some of these internet providers are addressing the problem?
So today, it's hard to talk about what their best practices are because it's coming so fast, right? I think the hopes was that the government was going to extend this program. However, it doesn't look like they are going to extend this program. So really the risk right now today is losing all of these customers or them going into non-pay disconnect because not being able to afford their internet services.
Yeah, Merlin and Steph, you've been out obviously talking to a lot of our clients as well as other customers out there. What are you hearing from them about ACP?
Yeah, Miles, I think that's important to know. We've been out talking to most of the leaders in the telecommunications space, and what we're hearing is most people are worried right now about the front end. So they're looking at how do they address the issue for customers that are rolling off this plan. And so there is a requirement that they do notifications and let the customers know that the program's ending. And this subsidy, which is about $30 a month, is going away. And what programs or plans can they put people in? And so we're seeing that that's happening mainly through electronic means, either emails or texts that are going out to notify customers. I think we're also seeing some clients auto package and move people into a more affordable package that may include lower speeds or less data usage. And that's primarily what we're seeing in the space today, is a lot of effort on that upfront space.
Well, this is a temporary thing, obviously, right? And so how are they addressing that need?
Yeah, as you look at this, I think what you're seeing is they're for the most part lumping these customers into three primary groups. People that pay for services and are getting some sort of subsidy. So they're either paying for other services or enhanced services, and part of their bill is being subsidized. The other two segments come from a full subsidy where they're getting 100% of their bill covered, but they split that into two segments, high users and low users of the data. So I think that the point here is what is the risk to the business?
Yeah.
And what is the potential for a customer to actually afford and be able to pay? And then they're figuring out packages for those individual segments.
Okay.
Yeah, but I also think what's the most important thing here is that the digital means that people are communicating with, is that the ultimate solution? And I think what we just worried about is that have all these clients planned adequately with a people or a voice component should they need to. I think sometimes these packages are complicated and people don't understand how to address them. So that might be the oversight. This is that they don't see the need, for a voice to come in.
So Steph, we've been talking about some of the best practices that companies, or that you're hearing that companies are implementing. What is the biggest risk that you're seeing to the companies that you're talking to as well?
Yeah, I think the thing that one misses is really around volume and the ability to respond quickly. As a partner to Complete Recovery, that we've been working on these telco type of mandates for the last 2 years, and also for other US clients that require seasonal scalability. We've seen the need sometimes for 400-500 agents to need to be brought on. Fortunately, we can do this. We can do this from our platform, and your ability to respond, your ability to answer your clients' questions, concerns, because the main objective is to keep them as a client and to save them. And I think we can collectively offer that solution, and it's really your ability to respond.
Yeah, Steph, I think I just want to talk a little bit about the size. Misty mentioned 23 million households. That number sounds big, but in perspective of our clients that we're talking to, we're seeing that this represents somewhere in the neighborhood of 10% of their entire customer base, and some of our clients are seeing this upwards and getting close and nearing 20% of their employee base. So when you look at people, and as Steph talks about the scalability, when you look at an organization that's used to handling normal traffic from their customer base, when you talk about a population this large that all has an event happening all at the exact same time, the manpower and the staff to adequately not just notify and handle that volume, but especially when you're trying to save a good part of this revenue or these customers, is at risk. And so if you don't answer the phone call, then people make other decisions in that space. So I think that is the largest risk in this space, is the manpower and training to handle these issues in a professional and adequate way while maintaining the revenue or creating an avenue or a pathway for these customers to upgrade or start spending money on these services that they haven't for, in some case, 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. Is this impacting just the large internet providers, or who is this impacting?
Yeah, this spans even from middle tier. Because this program came out and was required at the very beginning of this program, there was a mandate put into place that you couldn't do disconnects for non-payment. And so there were some other rules that created a big bubble of these customers to be put on early on. And there were customers even put onto this program as recently as January of this year. That was the last month, I believe, that they were allowed to be added to the program.
Okay.
So as you see that this has been added over this long period of time in this embedded base, there's an enormous amount of risk to these customers. So to answer your first question, this primarily affects everyone from the middle, the big companies, all the way down to the small local providers that may offer even rural and internet services.
Yeah, and I imagine each of these companies are either coming up with their own plans or other things like that, and it's handled in in various ways. Obviously, you've outlined some of the impacts, and some of this is a temporary solution or a temporary impact that they may not have the current resources today to manage the volumes that they may be getting, right? And at the end of the day, it seems like the main objective here, or the risk is loss of revenue, right? And so I would love to just jump in and start talking about what are some of the things that you would recommend to address these risks.
Yeah. I would say the first one is kind of this plan B, which is a lot of companies are spending time determining how they're going to do the notification and how they handle the volume with their current staff. The problem becomes when the subsidy goes away and people start making calls into your place of business. How do you handle that added volume? Yeah. And I believe if you set up a plan for a group that can staff up quickly and help you with already trained professionals that generally know what's going on and can quickly learn what packages that you need to repackage them, that's probably the best scenario for early on in this process. Then as you migrate through the timeline of a customer, you hopefully save as many customers as you can there, but how do you create already used transactions where people are calling in for a billing question or other purposes, to identify those customers as ACP customers. So you can take that opportunity to address their issue that they're calling in from, but also repackage them or solve the future issue that will be happening, both through notification and repackaging. And then I think the third one is, and this is where I feel that because it's happening a little later, companies are spending less time in this space, but it's the collections timeline. How do they save the most number of customers in that collections timeline? And once these accounts are charged off or disconnected, that they are handled appropriately so that they can get the money and the revenue that's associated with those bills.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, Steph, maybe you can chime in a little bit and tell us about Complete Recovery and Nutun's ability to ramp and what that might look like. Obviously, one of the things that was highlighted is the ability to ramp quickly. And so maybe you can share with us how Complete Recovery and Nutun have that ability to do that.
Yeah, I think also in the first place is that, this is not a new space for us. I mean, we've been deeply involved in the telco and cable space, from a saving and care perspective, and they're moving that into maybe early stage and late stage recoveries. The ability of the programs that we ran in the past around seasonality, so you see sometimes things like tax season, or you see events like Thanksgiving or so, and requiring organizations to suddenly ramp their requirements. And we've been able to respond to that in a big way. And I think I mentioned earlier, we've at stages had to employ 400 to 500 additional people to augment and add a digital strategy. And I think what we're seeing is that a lot of these companies are saying we can follow a digital strategy by notifying people through email or text, and the people respond to that. But there's always need to voice it. And what if people want to talk to people, and we can bring those volumes to people? And fortunately, it's a very friendly, comfortable discussion. So, we bring a lot of empathetic, a very bunch of friendly young people into the conversation, and in the process save a lot of their customers.
Yeah. How would a partnership look like to address, to obviously ramp and address the volume needs, but how would that look like in conjunction with maybe what a company is already doing to meet those needs?
Yeah, Miles, I think that's really what we're seeing is happening today, is we're starting to talk with a lot of our clients or potential clients. We're identifying what parts of these plans that they are already addressing. And then we're able to advise them maybe some areas of concern or areas that they should watch out for. As Steph mentioned, we have a cost-effective way to manage this work, primarily through South Africa, where labor costs are lower and we can ramp a lot faster, and we have people already trained in this space to answer these questions. But we can help them with resources on the upfront piece to either scrape calls that are customers calling in with ACP, even if they're calling in for other reasons. We have the ability to migrate that towards outreach, where we reach out to some of these customers, especially in the segments that I would say are high risk. The highest risk segments, I believe, are customers that are paying for other services and the customers that are high usage and getting 100% subsidy. Those two areas are areas where we know they're using the product, and we need to find a solution for them. And then as we identify, and you say, what does that partnership look like? Obviously, the company that we're working with needs to have the packages available, and that's really the only training we need, is what's available for our agents to use to help package or solve the solution for them. And we can help them with the data analytics to determine what are the biggest take rates across the industry, not just in their business, to help them identify what are the packages and what are we seeing the response is as this happens real time, because this is all going to happen, really in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then you might have some response time with the partial subsidy in May as you drag this out for the next 30 to 60 days.
Yeah. Well, and the ultimate goal is to try and save the customer and get them repackaged into something that they can, that still helps them and they keeps them a customer. But obviously there's going to be some that won't be able to meet those needs. So tell me a little bit about what does it look like after a customer disconnects or stops making their payments? What does that look like, and how can Complete Recovery and Nutun help out?
I think that's probably the one thing that we believe is not fully incorporated into the solution and the impact that ACP will have on the volumes is the ongoing through flow into your, say, delinquency stages. Even if it's an early stage or as it goes through to your late stage, irrespective of what, is there a installment that's being missed? Are there assets that need to be recovered? Is there a save? So I think as these volumes start flowing through into your later stage recovery spaces, you now are going to impact your normal day-to-day activities. How are you going to deal with that? And we feel that with additional resource, additional capacity that we bring into the conversation, you'll be able to retain what historically will be your delinquency levels, but also be able to add this new volume into your space.
Yeah. One of the things, and this goes back to one of the earlier questions with risk, a lot of times people look at their collections timeline, and as Steph talks about that kind of generally from a resource standpoint, also from a structure standpoint, people look at a collections timeline, and that disconnect date's important. Some people delay the disconnect date based upon low risk.
Yeah.
And so you could be 90 to 120 days delinquent before you get disconnected. Well, in this space, if somebody isn't paying you that first month, you now have a challenge to not only repackage, but now obtain the first month delinquency. So the challenge only gets more difficult the later in the treatment plan. So one of our first recommendations is treat these customers slightly different. Address them at delinquency, regardless of where they are in this timeline, to reduce your risk of bad debt, but also create a better solve or save strategy up front.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it kind of addresses each phase of this, and obviously it's going to tail off into the future, even though this is happening in the next couple of weeks, right? Where we'll start seeing some of this happen. And I'd almost say it seems like the sooner that you can tackle this, the better you can address the potential impact to your company. So Misty, could you tell us maybe a little bit about how Complete Recovery and Nutun can help?
Yeah, no, for sure. So we have that expertise here. We have been working with ACP customers since the start of the program. We have our agents, our teams are up to date on the ACP programs. So we are ready, we can staff. We're staff ready, but we're able to really react fast. I mean, if you figure right now, it's already April, right? And it's almost the end of April. We're halfway through, and then the beginning of May. We have to start talking to these customers. And each customer, as they call in, is a unique customer. I think Merlin hit on that a little bit, is we need to treat each conversation differently.
Yeah.
Because everybody has their own unique situation right now that is on the ACP program. So it's really important to make sure that the agents are trained and we're able to speak to these customers and able to make sure that we can put them in the right package if that's, and offer them a solution or whatever they're looking for to help recover as many of these customers as we can.
Yeah. One of the things that... And part of the reason I think we wanted Misty on this podcast was Misty, as she started seeing the announcements and how this was coming forward, really believed we needed to do it. We needed to invest in additional resources ahead of time because we were going to see this come through our normal course of business with our current clients already.
Yeah.
So the one thing we've done is we've also started to hire and train and ramp up ahead of this volume and have available resources already trained, ready for folks today. We also have, as Steph mentioned, the ability to ramp quickly even beyond that.
Yeah.
But we knew this volume was going to come through our business with our partnerships already. So we've invested that capital already, the human capital in hiring and training folks today.
Yeah. One of the other things I'll just chime in a little bit about Complete Recovery that I want to share is we do, like a lot of the stuff we do today across first party and equipment recovery, and then obviously third party collections, is our first attempt is to try and save the customer, right? And repackage or get them to maintain that. We obviously have products along the whole life cycle of the customer. But I think that's also just something that's really important to call out, as the ability to try and save the customer and help them get into something that works for them.
Yeah. And I think it's, Miles, as you mentioned that, the one other thought that I had, because you brought up equipment recovery, is like much of the same reason we've spent most of this podcast talking about saves and preventative measures. The reality is there are a group of these customers that will not end up with services.
Yeah.
And that's why Steph mentions, okay, well, when that happens, how do we treat them with respect, but also secure the financials that are associated with those disconnects. And some people will do it the quote right way and disconnect services before they accrue balances. But in some cases, the notifications through electronic means, they may not know about it or pay attention to those, and therefore they start accruing balances and delinquency before disconnecting.
Right.
And that's where we also can get involved. But I think the other thing to note is some of these customers that are only paying, I say they're paying $30 a month and they're getting 100% subsidy, have wireless routers, expensive modems that are owned by our clients.
Yeah.
And how important is it to, on a $30 a month bill, if that's going away, how do we get that back in a cost-effective way to make sure that those can be used for other customers that will be paying in the future, so you don't need to spend more money on capital to go and buy those devices.
Yeah, really great point.
Yeah, I think and the most important point is that it's not as if we're only doing this from now. You know, we've been busy with this for a long period of time, separately and together for at least 2 years, where these products, these conversations, these relationships with our clients have been in play. So, you know, existing clients who will be looking for the solution, as well as future new clients who might be looking for the solution, will encounter a team that is deeply knowledgeable and understanding of how to solve for this. And as we say, solve it at scale. We can do this in a big way.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. It's been great. I've learned a ton from what you've shared with me today and with all of us. Just to recap, kind of some of the main points that we can offer is consultation. I think that's really important, that we've got experts in this space. They've been talking to a lot of people across the whole country on what they're seeing and what they're doing. We can help augment that. But we also have the ability to scale to whatever size, whether it's big or small. And then, like I said, a lot of you may already be doing things. We can come in and help augment and provide some additional support or resources or consultation that is needed. And so we'd love for you to reach out to us. You can reach out to us in many different ways. You can reach out directly to Steph Venter, and your email address is Stephan
v@nutun.com. Nutun is NUTUN.com, and Stephan is STEPHANV. But just go to Nutun.com website, you'll find our contact details.
Yeah, and more specifically, info@nutun.com is another way. And you can reach out to Merlin Jensen, and it's merlin.j@complete1.com. It's really easy to remember, right? Or Misty, Pina, and it's misty.p@complete1.com. Well, thank you so much for your time, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Miles.